It's late. Somewhere out on Bodmin Moor, there's no street light, no houses, just open, dark, and wind moving through the grass. A couple of witnesses are out there when it happens. First, the silence changes. No footsteps, just this feeling something is there. Then they see it, low to the ground, black against black, moving how it shouldn't be moving. No rustle, no warning, just pacing them from the corner of their eye. And when they turn to escape, it follows them. I'm Uncle Perry. I don't just tell stories, I dig up the fucked up ones most folks are too chicken shit to talk about. And I do it in a cavalier kind of way. When it comes to cryptids, I chase down the truth behind the legends. Today, we're going into the remote moors of Cornwall, England. Big-ass land where people have long reported a large, black, cat-like figure moving through the tall, dark grass. Watching, then vanishing without a sound. Oh, hell yeah! It's post time, baby! It's time to crack a frosty one, kick your feet up, and let's get it! After those first reports started coming in, Bodmin Moor kinda settled into this strange pattern. Not chaos, not one-off weird stories, just repetition. Not one-off weird stories, just repetition. Different people, different nights, same general description coming back over and over again. A large black animal, cat-like, low to the ground, moving through open grass and rough terrain like it already knew the place better than anything else. And the weird part wasn't just that people saw it, it's how they saw it. Half the time, it wasn't even out in the open for long. It would show itself just long enough to be noticed, then fuck off into the dark. That's what started to stick. Not a single dramatic encounter, just this growing list of moments where people basically said the same thing without knowing each other had said it first. Something out there, black, silent, deadly. Fuck. And this ain't a place that makes shit easy to identify either. Bodmin Moor is wide open land. It's easy to look across the valley and see what you figure is a small black object moving along the huge hillside. But when you zoom in, you find out that's not a small animal at all. That's way too fucking big to be a house cat. So naturally, people start paying closer attention. And when folks start paying closer attention, the encounters start getting sharper. Same general shape, same behavior, same unsettling detail that keeps coming up no matter who's talking about it. And then there's the livestock angle. Because while all this is going on, farmers in the surrounding areas start reporting something else entirely. Sheep turning up dead in ways that don't line up cleanly with anything local wildlife should be doing. Not just scattered kills either. Damage that feels too heavy, too sudden, too violent for what you'd expect from dogs, foxes, or just anything in the fucking area. And that's where the two threads start to overlap in people's minds. You've got these repeated sightings of a large, black, cat-like figure moving through open land at night. And at the same time, You've got unexplained livestock deaths showing up in the same general region. Nobody has proof they're connected, but nobody can really separate them either. So what happens is pretty fucking simple. The idea of just sightings starts turning into something heavier, something more like a presence than an animal. Not because anyone proves it, but because the pattern keeps repeating without giving anyone a better explanation. And the more it repeats, the more people start noticing another detail that shows up again and again. It's not acting like something that lives far away from people. It's showing up too close to places it probably shouldn't be. Near train tracks, near farm edges, near roads cutting across the moor where visibility is already bad enough that you're never really confident about what you just saw for more than a second or two. And that's where the tone of these reports starts to shift. At first, it's curiosity. Then it's confusion. Then it's something closer to concern. Because it stops feeling like random wildlife sightings and starts feeling like something that's learned how to move through the landscape without being fully understood. Shit, a little too fast still. I need slower. Slower! Read slower, damn it! Because it stops feeling like random wildlife sightings and starts feeling like something that's learned how to move through the landscape without being fully understood. Not rushing, not panicking, just there, then gone, leaving people second guessing what they just looked at. And all of this is happening before anyone really puts a name on it. Before Beast of Bodmin Moor becomes the label that ties everything together, right now it's still just scattered accounts. Separate people, separate nights. Same basic story forming underneath it all, whether anyone's trying to connect it or not. Description: lore. The Beast of Bodmin Moor is described in British cryptid lore as a large, black, cat-like creature that inhabits the remote moorland of Cornwall, England. It doesn't have one official confirmed form, but the descriptions that repeat most often across accounts are surprisingly consistent, which is part of why the story stuck. In most versions, it's said to resemble a big cat, something closer to a leopard or a jaguar than anything native to the UK. The body is usually described as low to the ground, long-tailed, and powerfully built, with smooth movement. The body is usually described as low to the ground, long-tailed, and powerfully built, with smooth movement that doesn't match local wildlife like foxes or domestic dogs. Its color is almost always reported as solid black, blending into the moorland terrain. The eyes are one of the most repeated details. Witnesses describe them as yellow or green, bright enough to stand out sharply in darkness. In some accounts, they seem almost reflective, giving the impression of something watching back from the edge of visibility. When more detail is given, people mention sharp, prominent teeth, reinforcing the idea of a predatory animal, rather than a shadow or trick of light. Another recurring feature is a low, rumbling growl. Not a bark or a snarl, but something deeper and more "I'm gonna fuck you up" sounding. It's as if something from within the animal rather than just its throat. It's often described as felt more than heard, especially in the quiet, open land like the moor. And when you put all that shit show together, it starts to paint a pretty unsettling picture. Not just a vague something in the woods story, but a consistent description that keeps showing up in the same part of the world over and over again from people who have no fucking reason to be coordinating their stories. A large, black, cat-like animal, built like a predator that doesn't belong in the UK, moving too smoothly, too silently, and showing up in places it shouldn't be. At some point, it stops feeling like folklore people are repeating and starts feeling like something that's actually there, just out of sight, moving through the moorland with absolutely no fucks given. In 1995, the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries, and Food carried out an investigation into reports of livestock killings and big cat activity in the region. The thing that came out of it wasn't a confirmation, but also not a clean dismissal either. They basically concluded that there was no verifiable evidence proving the presence of an exotic big cat. But at the same time, they couldn't fully rule out. But at the same time, they couldn't fully rule out the possibility that some of the injuries and reports might be consistent with something larger than typical British wildlife. You think? And then, almost immediately after that period of official attention, another strange piece of the puzzle showed up. On July 24th, 1995, a young boy found a large cat skull near River Fowey. At first glance, it was exactly the kind of thing that would make people lose their fucking shit. Big feline skull, completely out of place. Perfect fuel for the legend. But when it was examined, it turned out to be something far less mysterious. It was identified as a leopard skull, but not a wild one roaming Cornwall. It was part of a leopard skin rug. Basically, a skull that ended up getting separated from the rug and dumped out in the field. So, instead of being evidence of a living big cat, it ended up being evidence of how easily the story could take on symbolic weight from something completely ordinary. That is, if you consider a leopard skin rug ordinary. And that's where shit gets fucked up. Because once you get past the official reports and the debunked evidence, you're left with the people who swear they saw something. And they're not all telling the same story by accident. In 2016, massive paw prints were discovered in Cornwall. A clear set of feline footprints in the mud around 4 inches wide were photographed and measured. Those who saw the prints in person said this was absolutely not a house cat. The size of the prints had to have been left by something around the size of a lion. A few months later, a similar encounter happened in the same area. A driver reported a massive fucking creature leaping out in front of him. And after authorities investigated, they found several large paw prints in a nearby clay pit, along with a deer that had its head removed. For skeptics, these encounters are a one-off thing. For others, a single encounter is more than enough to make them believe they saw shit that shouldn't be. For others, it seems as though it's a recurring theme. A guy named Sid Yates had an encounter with the Beast of Bodmin Moor. his first reaction was not the usual surprise and shock. Instead, there seemed to be an element of, not again, in his retelling. The sighting was in 2013, and he saw the beast in the early morning. In his words, this is what he said. It looked a bit like a black Labrador, but it had longer legs and a tail, as well as a flat nose. It was definitely the Beast of Bodmin, and not a dog. It then crossed the road and got into the old stables near my house and disappeared. I spoke to the other people in the village about it, and they said there was a sighting a few years ago on the other side of the village. Sid would go on to explain that this was the third time that he's seen this fucking thing in his lifetime. There are more sightings and little pieces of information that all roughly tie together to add to the plausibility of the legend. Like this, for example. Homeowners finding dogs' legs fully detached lying in their front yard with no sign of an injured pet nearby and really no explanation. What the fuck? If anything, it kept the idea of a big cat presence floating around in people's heads a little longer. So again, you don't get one clear answer. You just get repetition. Same general shape, same general behavior, different people, different years, and layered on top of all this are the smaller, messier reports that don't always make it into the main narrative. None of these individual cases stand up as solid proof on anything on their own, but they keep getting folded into the broader story anyway. Because every time something like that happens, it adds another little piece to the same uncomfortable pattern. Something large, black, feline-shaped, moving through the landscape where it technically shouldn't be able to exist unnoticed for this long. And then you get the most recent modern case that people still bring up when talking about the Beast of Bodmin. In 2015, a woman named Carol reported seeing what she believed to be a large cat in a garden area just outside Plymouth. At first glance, she thought it might be a fox or a domestic animal of some kind. But the more she watched it, the less it matched anything local. Larger body, different proportions, and a movement pattern that didn't feel right for a typical domestic animal. She took pictures during the encounter, and while they weren't dramatic at first glance, she later said that when she checked them out more carefully, the size and shape of the animal stood out more than she originally realized. In her words, it appeared significantly larger than any fox she had ever seen, and it didn't align with any normal wildlife she could think of in the region. And that's kind of where all this sits. No single case that locks it down, no definitive proof, just a stack of documents, reports, and small pieces of information that keep circling the same idea without ever fully resolving it. Something keeps showing up in and around Bodmin Moor, and even when individual explanations exist for parts of it, the overall pattern never fully disappears. Now, before we crown the Beast of Bodmin Moor as some legendary predator, we've got to look at what the skeptics say. And honestly, they come in fucking swinging. Their biggest point is that most sightings are just misidentifications. Regular animals looking weird in the wrong lighting. Out on the moor, distance plays tricks on you. A big house cat, a fox, or shit, even a dog can suddenly look panther-sized when it's silhouetted against the rocks or moving through tall grass. Half the famous paw prints people bring in turn out to be dogs anyway. Yeah, but what about the other half? Then there's the evidence problem, or really the lack of evidence problem. After decades of stories, there's still no confirmed carcass, no verified scat, no clear tracks, nothing that would prove a big cat is living out there long term. Skeptics also point out how much folklore and expectation shape what people think they're seeing. Cornwall has a long history of black dog legends and ghostly creatures roaming the countryside. So if you're already primed for something spooky, then that shadow on the ridge suddenly becomes a monster instead of a stray cat. And when physical evidence does show up, it falls apart. Like the big cat skull that turned out to be from a leopard skin rug. Stuff like that makes skeptics feel pretty confident that the beast isn't a hidden predator. It's just a mix of stories, shadows, and complete bullshit. Some believers argue the beast is a relict population of Britain. Fuck! Took me 3 times to say Britain. Some believers argue the beast is a relict population of Britain's long-extinct wildcats or big cats, surviving undetected in the remote, rugged terrain of Bodmin Moor. The moor's isolation, deep valleys, and sparse human presence make it easy to imagine a hidden lineage hanging on. Britain once hosted large predators, so when witnesses describe a sleek, panther-like animal with glowing eyes, believers see it as evidence of a native species that somehow persisted against all odds. Then there's the explanation many people consider the most grounded. Multiple big cats living on the moor after being released from captivity decades ago. The 1970s law change didn't create a single dramatic release. It created a slow, quiet trickle of privately owned big cats being let loose by individuals who didn't want the responsibility and or the fines. No paperwork, no oversight, just animals disappearing into the countryside. If even a few survived and adapted, a small, scattered population could easily account for decades of sightings across a massive rural landscape. A related idea expands that further. The beast might not be one creature at all, but several big cats moving through different parts of Cornwall over the years. Overlapping territories, inconsistent sightings, and long gaps between reports all fit into a scenario where multiple animals create the illusion of a single legendary predator. That's why the story never cleanly ends. No single animal ages out, and no final sighting ties everything up all nice and fucking neat. Beyond the natural explanations, some believers go in a different direction entirely. They argue the beast is a distinct, undiscovered species adapted specifically to the moor. Larger than known British cats, unnervingly silent, capable of clearing high walls, and possessing traits that don't match any catalogued fauna. And then there's the folkloric angle. Cornwall is steeped in tales of black dogs, spirits, and guardians of ancient sites. In that tradition, the beast becomes a phantom cat or supernatural sentinel. something that slips between physical and mythic space. Its glowing eyes, vanishing tracks, and uncanny movement feed into the idea of a creature that isn't bound by normal biology. Together, these explanations paint a picture that feels less impossible and more like simply unresolved. In 2022, DNA testing took place on fur found on a barbed wire fence in Gloucestershire. See, I knew I was going to fuck that up. In 2022, DNA testing took place on fur found In 2022, DNA testing took place on fur found on a barbed wire fence in Gloucestershire following repeated sheep attacks and confirmed the presence of a big cat. In 2023, a sample taken from a sheep carcass in Cumbria was identified as Panthera DNA. Pantera? Though Gloucestershire is closer to Wales than Cornwall, where Bodmin Moor is, and Cumbria closer to Scotland, these tests provide compelling evidence of big cats surviving in the UK. Now, to be clear, none of that is a smoking gun for Bodmin Moor specifically, but it does change the fucking conversation a little. Because suddenly, the idea of a big cat in the UK stops sounding like pure folklore and starts sounding like something that, at least in isolated cases, has some biological backing behind it. And when you circle back to Bodmin, that's where things get uncomfortable. You've got decades of sightings. You've got consistent descriptions. You've got livestock attacks that never fully got pinned down to one cause. And you've got official investigations that never fully closed the case, only narrowed it without eliminating doubt. Even if you ignore the name Beast of Bodmin Moor entirely, you're still left with a question that never really went away. Because shit keeps showing up in the margins of these rural places. Not often enough to fully map it, not clearly enough to fully prove it, but often enough that people keep talking about it. And maybe the real problem isn't whether people saw something in Bodmin Moor. Maybe it's whether whatever they saw never really left. Do you like weird-ass monsters? Then tap that like button and subscribe. That way, you won't miss out on more of my fucked up commentary. And besides, I really do appreciate it. Is the Beast of Bodmin Moor a released Black Panther? A misidentified house cat? Or just everybody losing their shit? Let me know down in the comments. And if you're ready to crank that shit all the way up to 11, that join button. Oh, fuck. You'd think I'd have this memorized. And if you're ready to crank that shit all the way up to 11, that join button's got your name on it. For just $2.99, you can have my back in a huge fucking way. Until next time, y'all keep it real, keep it chill, and stay creepy! Catch you on the flip. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. You are the real beast.